I have a task. Maybe my mission is to tell the stories people who never had a chance.
I wanted to tell my story. If not me, who? And if not now, when? I can't wait till later. As an artist, you need to tell it at the time that it is happening, when it is going on. Who are you now, right now?
When you're an artist, you don't have a choice. The only choice you really have is whether you're gonna do what you feel compelled inside to do. If you don't do it, you're gonna suffer. Maybe you suffer if you do it anyway, but you gotta go through the fire, you gotta do it, you gotta get it out.
Artists born artists, and they pay a price for that. They suffer, because I think the artists come with a skin that is a little more tender. What has been beautiful working with Bernice is that she's an instigator. She's the one to go for it, do it, don't be afraid. That is all that you need sometimes. Somebody who say, I believe in you, so just go for it, and it will be okay. So you don't choose to be an artist.
At first, she's so overwhelming. I mean, such a little woman, but such a big personality. I felt intimidated by her. I was like, oh my God, it's Bernice Steinbaum.
Bernice was a fireball, flamboyant, and that's understated, actually.
She doesn't consider herself an artist, but I think deep down inside, that's exactly what she is. She doesn't want a lot of attention, yet she walks around in a dress that's, the color of fireworks.
Pretty fab, don't you think? It's all about aesthetics for me. My job is promoting artists' careers. That's first. Second is selling their work so that they can make more work. After studying art for a gazillion years and teaching art, I was aghast that women were not included in the history of art texts.
It was a very male world. Women were much and undeservedly underrepresented in the art world. Just a male fraternity, museum directors.
New York is sort of the epicenter of that kind of narrow art world. Because of the choices she made, I think she took a lot of blows. There were a lot of other gallerists who kind of didn't see the value in the work we were doing.
I think the art world has been unduly racist and sexist in America.
When you are a petite black woman, how difficult is to establish yourself? How difficult is to find people who will fight for this?
It occurred to me that I could make a difference. And indeed, while I was in New York, my mission was to show 50% women and 40% artists of color. It was about willing to take the risk. These artists are artists by anybody's standards. There's not a separate arena for artists of color, and they are not lesser than. I want to choose those people who will make the annals of art history. So I actually look for a visceral reaction.
My career as an artist would have been decidedly different without Bernice in it. I was raised in Harlem, right in the neighborhood with all these famous people. Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, just running into them. When I was at City College, I never learned about any African-American artists. I was either the only black person in the department or maybe one of the only. What I did feel was She's not gonna be an artist, no. Absolutely not. He's definitely not gonna be a black woman and be a successful artist. I would go to the gallery and the gallery dealer would look at my legs, but not my art. I decided that I needed to get involved with women's issues.
Lay that pistol down, babe, lay that pistol down. Pistol packing mama, lay that pistol down.
There was an organization called the Guerrilla Girls, and they would put manifestos on gallery windows, and they would stand in their guerrilla costumes in front of a museum that had had a group show and not included any women.
We demonstrated at the Guggenheim, the Whitney, the Museum of Modern Art, to open those places up to women and African Americans.
The Guerrilla Girls were significant because they were very activist, and they made a real point of challenging these museums. They succeeded in making them look, shabby.
Before it goes off and hurts somebody.
We're all Guerrilla Girls. We all fight for the disempowered. Whether we have a name and whether we wear a costume, we're all Guerrilla Girls.
You were my first real dealer.
I was her first real dealer. I saw her work at the Harlem Studio Museum, and there was Faith painting stories on her quilts. I thought her story quilts were absolutely going to make art history, and indeed they did.
Bernice was a very influential part of my early career. Tar Beach was in the first show that I had with Bernice.
I thought it was a beach, a real beach.
A real beach.
Right.
Well, Tar Beach was growing up in Harlem, going up on the roof in the summer. At night, the adults would play cards and talk, and we would just sort of dream. It was bought by Judith Lieber. She said to Bernice, "What can I do to help Faye?" So Bernice said, "Well, we're trying to get her into public collections. How about the Guggenheim?" I said, "I'm not getting in this conversation." The Guggenheim Museum was mostly known for European art, definitely not African Americans, not women, and now they're going to take Tar Beach into their collection. I don't know about that. And I'm not gonna sit here and wait for it to happen either. But then it did. Bernice is in the picture. You did it again. All the best and lots of love. You're very special to me, friend and dealer. There's so many people who help you as an artist to achieve goals, some that you don't even have any idea that are coming.
Artists have to grow too, and so hopefully the dealer grows with that artist and wants to teach whoever comes in. If they don't, then they're in the wrong profession. Everybody should be friendly with people who make them see things in a different way. It doesn't matter what their genders are. I actually met Enrique and his partner with whom he shares a studio through a group show, and it was love at first sight. I love all your work.
I know you
Wait
do,
just
but you
a
love my
second.
feathers.
He makes animals that, in fact, are fantasy animals.
My father was a taxidermist. He worked for the Museum of Science. So my work has a lot to do with my upbringing. As a kid, I used to play around and create my own different species and stuff like that. I met Troy, and Troy's like, "What did you used to do as a kid?" And I said, "I used to combine different animals together." He's like, "That's what you need to do." These beetle wings are harvested once a year when they burn down the forest in Thailand. So then I buy them and collect them. To me, death is, it's part of life. There's a beginning and an end to everything.
One day I was walking down Lincoln Road and I saw a couple of bird cages for sale. So I bought a couple of bird cages with the idea that, wow, wouldn't they be cool to have videos of birds in those cages? It had all these references to me personally, being gay and feeling closeted and sort of being oppressed by society and being able to look around and see everything going on, but feeling sort of hesitant to actually be fully expressed as a human being. And then it also relates a lot to freedom.
There are times that artists get stuck. There are times when an artist is nervous about, should I or shouldn't I? Can I or can't I? Everybody needs someone who cares.
People are always, they're very critical sometimes of what he does, but sometimes you need to create things that are really out there to make people aware of what's going to be missing or what is missing or what's almost missing.
Artists don't follow all the rules exactly. They're busy creating and doing, and so he didn't look at what was a species that you could not bring in to make your work.
I wasn't really paying attention. I was buying things online, on eBay, and making artwork out of it. Before you knew it, the feds were knocking at the door. And, I wasn't hiding. I was showing my work everywhere.
Enrique did nothing that other artists have not done.
Bernice stood by my side the whole time. She was like, no, 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 this is ridiculous. You're an artist. Come with me, and I'll take care of you. And she did. And then when I was put away, she took care of Troy.
He had to go to prison, and Troy was left alone. The person that not only did he live with, but worked with every day, was gone. Troy suffered beyond belief, and when I think about it, I too well up.
We love each other very much, and we're fortunate that we're both artists. This piece is called Love Song, and it's from 2012. And this was one of the pieces I made when Henry was away, and this was the most personal piece that speaks about our experience. One lovebird on this side and one lovebird on that side, and they're both in cages.
I wrote Enrique every day a card that just said, thinking about you. Hurry home. Silly stuff that didn't take me more than a minute. But I wanted him to know he was in my life too. And that, because he wasn't making his art, did not mean that I loved him less or cared about him less.
When we look at it in hindsight, that was just, in Bernice's terms, that was an adventure. We look at the art world completely different since Bernice came into the picture.
I think they could get through anything now. I do. I do. The artists that I will continue talking about are those artists who deal with the narrative in their work. They tell their own story, and if an artist digs deep down into themselves, the work becomes universal. The ceiling was done by two Cuban artists who disagreed with Castro's political positions. He removed their paint supplies and canvases. What is an artist to do who wants to make his or her mark? These two artists gathered flies, and then they put their bodies in a blender in order to make a paste. They worked for about 2 months with scaffolding on the table. My husband traditionally ate breakfast at this table, raisin bran, and the fly parts, as you can imagine, could easily fall into the raisin bran cereal. He complained vociferously about being positive he was eating fly parts, and I reassured him that it was high protein. But I think this shows an incredible desire to make a mark, however they had to do it, in this case, with fly parts.
In Cuba, there were many limitations, many limitations. Describing Cuban artists, we all have that. We all have the response that, don't tell me that is no material. Don't tell me that is a limitation. You say no to the limitation. You say what I could do with that. So I keep that energy in my work and I keep that thinking. What about if? Get beautiful. Quickly.
There is something called Cubanismo. You do fall in love with this country that is totally falling apart. But Cuba has produced more visual artists, more literary artists, and more performing artists than any one of the other islands in the Caribbean.
I was changing clothes close to her office, and she's talking with somebody about somebody else's work. And the way that Bernice was describing that other artist's work absolutely captured my heart forever. I say, I want to be in the hand of this woman. She was that when there were no many believers, when there were no many people willing or ready to take the risk of saying this is valuable, this is important, deserves paying attention of the rest. She did that.
Magda is a personality that's like the Pied Piper. She walks into a room and people just trail after her. As we become more acquainted with third world countries, artists use their bodies as their canvases.
At this moment, I think what is important for me is how do I build bridges to Cuba? And also, I am thinking more and more and more and more about how the role of the artist shifts with the circumstances in where the artist lives.
This is Magda and her mother.
It's called Replenishing, and I show that piece first in her gallery.
They are connected with an umbilical cord that is African beads. I might tell you that Magda's mother died in Cuba. Magda tried everything to get medicine and supplies for her mother, and they were confiscated at the customs office each time, and then resold. And so I would look at this and say, I love this piece. And my husband said, what is it about it that you love so much? And I said, well, it's my mother and I. And he looked at me incredulously. He said, honey, did you notice that they were very thin? I said, yes. Implication being I wasn't. And he said, did you notice that their skin was black? I said, just like a doctor, to think about those dumb things. I said, art has to transcend the image.
Here you have these two African ladies, and here you have this little Jewish lady saying that it's her mother and herself. I like that, I take that, absolutely.
So I too am attached to my mother with an umbilicus, and all is possible in this country, and Magda and I are proof positive of that.
The Smithsonian was trying to buy that piece, and I remember that they were telling her, but put the price, what do you want for the piece? And she said, no, anything, I don't depart from that.
I suspect that one day we will all be put in a blender and we will all be cafe au lait.
I never thought that art could be a profession, especially in China. Some of the restrictions during the Cultural Revolution, you should hide who you are. Being an artist, really having your free individual kind of mind actually was a burden then. You have to portray great leader, love the people love the leader, following the party line, marching on, all the stuff. I did a bunch of landscapes. Now I title them Sacred Freedoms. You bought a tiny paint box, and then I cut all my brushes shorter, put paints there, and put the little box in my bag and just walk out of the campus. I needed to have a time to myself and space too. So there's nothing between me and the landscape. None of the landscape paintings had a very strong revolutionary slogan agenda, so that could be a big problem. Painting is a way to get away, to escape. "26 years ago, I entered the U.S. through San Francisco Customs to do research into the Chinese immigrants' history. I then had a green card. I was not an American citizen yet. And the green card at that time is called a resident alien card. Also, that time I got to U.S. several big alien movies just came out. So I always have my Chinese English dictionaries in hand, and I'll look up what alien means. Alien is supposed to be from somewhere else, other planet, doesn't belong. Also, alien in the movies I saw, first off, they look horrible, they're monsters. Secondly, they always try to take over, to kill, to occupy. So I did a big painting of my green card, and I changed my name to Cookie Fortune and the big fingerprint and the whole thing.
When I started being a dealer 100 years ago, people sent their information with slides.
My colleague, she said, would you like to send a set of slides to Bernice Steinbaum? I said, okay, it's very hard to approach any New York gallery.
And I held her slides up to the light box. I thought she was an incredible painter.
After maybe a week, I said maybe I should call. I was really scared. And then I just said, hi, this is Hong Liu. I'm wondering if you received my slides. And the other side of the phone, she started to scream. What's going on? What's wrong? Said, oh, this is the artist calling me. She talked to other people. And she's so passionate. After I met her, I knew that's normal, her. That was a good sign. She really liked my work. Bernice is not just an art dealer. I have other art dealers, but nobody would be like Bernice, like a super, Jewish mother, everybody's mother almost. And she took care of your work, but also she really wants to be part of your family.
She really is like my little sister.
Father's Day is one of my very super personal paintings because really it's about me finding my father after almost 50 years. He was on the wrong side from the Communist Party, so he was in prison. He was sent to labor camp.
Hung was convinced her father had passed away. I was with Hung in California when her friend called and said, Hung, we found your father. He's not dead. He's living in the same camp as he has been for the last 48 years. She goes to this camp and she is met by officers who have big guns. And she said, I'm here to see my father. And he says, what's your name? And she tells him, my name is Hung. And this old, very tired man is brought into the office. And they say, you had a daughter. What was her name? He says, you can kill me right now. Take out your rifles. I don't remember her name. And they physically start to jostle this old man. And with that, Hung said, tears start falling from my eyes. And I say to them in perfect Chinese, may I bring this man outside? And they agree. And she says to her father, how could you forget your only child's name? And he said, why would I tell my captors my child's name when I've been in prison for 48 years trying to protect that child? And she says, if I tell you I am an American, and I mean you and your child no harm, will you tell me her name? He said, yes, it's hung. It means rainbow.
Just to find your father, you left him when you were 6 months old. I have no clue you had a father, never grew up with him, and he was on the wrong side. He was a public enemy, and then you found him as an old man. That was amazing. Maybe first time for me, for him, felt really both very strange, also very precious. Like at least before he died, he knew that his daughter, only daughter, cared about him and looking for him. And my mom never remarried because of him.
And so she hands someone a camera, and they take this picture of she and her father. And you can see her eyes are red. There are tissues wadded up in her hand.
I was dying to get him out to China, but he was just too weak.
She called me and she said, can you help me get my father a visa? She said, Bernice, he's so ill and he needs medical care. And so I came up with someone who was able to get her father a visa, and he was supposed to come on February 14th.
Sometimes you cannot fix the past. You have to use other ways to reclaim it.
Since I was so involved in the process of getting him a visa, I wanted to own the painting. And she relinquished the painting to me, which was extraordinary for me.
She was very moved, and she felt like I was a part of the extended family. She thought that was such an important part of history. That's her investment, not just into the art, but the artist.
The most important thing for an artist is to stay in place. Do not leave. Don't stop trying. Do not stop trying under any circumstance, no matter what happens.
Don't give up with your adventurous mind, and also just go for the uncertainty.
These are the scenes that allowed you to move forward, to keep growing, to believe in yourself. These are truly important relationships.
I think what we do as dealer artists is so intimate. It's like standing naked on New Year's Eve in Times Square and saying, look at me. I mean, they are revealing everything about themselves. Artists make magic. I'm still of that theory. And the dealer at best gets to stand in the room next to where the potions are made. Always there is the passion for art and finding the next artist who will make art history. I didn't think that I would impact the world. I wanted to impact myself, knowing that I had done the right thing and what I wish someone would have done for me. The fight is not over, but we're winning. And now I'm getting out of my rubber suit.